Land dwellers, preservers, protectors, or polluters by landers. In this video, we are going to talk about anthropogenic effects by geochemical cycle of phosphorus, invasive species, and land dwellers itself. Now, let's start with anthropogenic effects.
Anthropogenic refers to the impact of human on the environment. Before the Industrial Revolution, although humans have been influencing the environment for tens of thousands of years, before humans started farming, human activities which impacts the environment that includes changes in ecosystem, biodiversity, and natural resources. We human plays a role in impacting the environment, especially in damaging the environment. Primary factors of effects. The function of ecosystem has been drastically and quickly changed by overpopulation, pollution, and land development, and overexploitation. These increase extreme events such as hurricanes getting stronger and ocean acidification, which causes species to decline, endangerment, and extinction. Overexploitation of natural resources. The overexploitation of ecosystem and natural resources caused by human has long-lasting consequences. For the future, it increases the health hazard and risk of natural disaster and the degradation of the ecosystem. Habitat modification, conversion, and fragmentation. Habitat fragmentation remains a significant concern. It also has changed the natural landscape on Earth. This includes building cities, farming and natural resources extraction such as deforestation and mining. Also, agricultural expansion has resulted in dramatic global habitat loss and fragmentation. Invasive species are one of the leading causes of global biodiversity loss. They can damage native habitats, spread disease, and cause extinction. An invasive species is a living organism that is not native to that environment and cause economic and environmental harm or is damaging to human health.
Now let's go to the phosphorus cycle. The phosphorus cycle is a biogeochemical cycle that explains how phosphorus is transformed and transported around in the soil, water, living and dead organic materials. Phosphorus is very important because it is needed for the growth, maintenance, and repair of all tissues and cells, and for the production of the genetic building blocks, DNA and RNA. Phosphorus is also needed to help balance and use other vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, iodine, magnesium, and zinc. Now, there are 4 steps in the phosphorus cycle. Number 1 is weathering. This happens when phosphate salts are broken down from the rocks, then these salts are washed away into the ground where they mix in the soil. Next is absorption by plants. In this step, phosphate salts that dissolved in water are absorbed by the plants. However, these are very little. That's why farmers apply phosphate fertilizers on agricultural lands. And on aquatic plants, they absorb inorganic phosphorus from the lower layers of water bodies. After that is the absorption by animals. In this step, animals receive phosphorus by consuming plants or consuming plant-eating animals that are rich in phosphorus. And the last step is return of phosphorus back to the ecosystem. In this step, when the plants or animals die, they are decomposed. During this step, the organic form of phosphorus is converted into the inorganic form, which is then recycled to soil and water.
Weathering of existing rock is referred to as the sedimentary cycle. Mineral erosion, transport, deposition, and eventually burial are the causes of weathering. The phosphorus cycle serves as an illustration of the sedimentary process. The sedimentary cycle is an important part of the phosphorus cycle because it is responsible for keeping phosphorus cycling through the environment and available for use by plants and other organisms.
Invasive species are any organisms that are non-native and affect the local ecology. These non-native plants and animals outcompete and drive out species that have developed particularly to exist in our local ecosystems when they get established there. Example of an invasive species is the water hyacinth, an aquatic plant introduced to the US from South America as an ornamental. but in the wild, it forms dense mats, reducing sunlight for submerged plants and aquatic organisms, crowding out native aquatic plants and clogging waterways and intake pipes. Examples of invasive species and how we can prevent them. For plants, verify that the plants that you're buying for your garden are not invasive. Replace invasive plants in your garden with non invasive alternatives. For aquatic foreign bodies, remove all visible aquatic vegetation from your boat, propeller, anchor, lines, and trailer before leaving any body of water. Discard vegetation in trash away from water and the shore. For snails and other invasive species, encourage their natural predators can be an example on how we can avoid them. Creating a haven for wildlife, such as birds and frogs, can drive away these invasive species. For pests and parasites, it is important to grow crops in locations where they are best suited to the climate, soil, topography. There, it provides them with optimal conditions from the start. Crop location, variety selection, strategic planting and crop rotation, soil and water management, optimizing plant nutrition, harvesting and storage area, and preserving its natural habitats near your area are ways on how we can avoid these pests and parasites from invading your crops.
Moving on to land dwellers. These are the land dwellers that are considered as invasive species, or also known as terrestrial invasive species. Terrestrial invasive species are non-native plants, animals, or other organisms that are primarily focused on land. For terrestrial invasive plants, this includes shrubs, vines, and other plants that grow in agricultural fields, urban landscapes, and along waterways. These plants are invasive because they take nutrients from plants that should be receiving it. For terrestrial invasive vertebrates, these are animals with a backbone who lives mostly on lands. This primarily includes reptiles, birds, and mammals. For terrestrial invasive invertebrates, these are animals that does not have any backbone. The most prevalent invasive terrestrial invertebrate is an insect. However, other arthropods, mollusks, and nematodes are also included. And lastly, territ- territorial pathogens and diseases. These are diseases and disease-causing microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, and fungi. All of these are invasive species. Therefore, it is safe to say that they are polluters. However, only one question remains. What about us humans? Are we invasive? To an extent, we are an invasive species because humans have been taking over the homes and resources of animals across the globe. We continue to take new lands to compensate for our growing population. However, according to Piero Genovesi, the chairman of IUCN's invasive group, we do not fit in the definition of an invasive species. Regardless of whether we are an invasive species or not, the best course of action from now on should be for the betterment of our environment. That is all. Thank you.